everyone. My name's Amanda. I'm the lead keeper of the Hooves and Horns area here at the Franklin Park Zoo. And in honor of International Tiger Day, which was this Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a Facebook Live with our tiger, Anala. So I'm going to start off doing a quick training session with her. I'll try to explain what I'm doing as we do it. All of our training here is to help our animals participate in their own health care. So they will do behaviors that allow us to check their teeth, look at their feet, give them vaccines, do voluntary blood draws. All of our training is voluntary, so she can come over if she wants, she can leave if she wants, and we'll see how much she wants to participate today. So we use positive reinforcement. I have a clicker, which is gives her a bridge for when she's doing the behavior that I'm looking for. And I have a bowl of meat here, which is part of her diet, as reinforcement. Nice and delicious. So let's see what Anala feels like doing today. So the 3 clicks is an indication of we're ready to start training. Hi. Good girl. So that noise that she just made, she's not going to do it now. No. Well, that's a whine. The first noise was a chuff. So that's the closest thing to a purr that a big cat can make. It's a greeting. I'm sure she'll do it before we're done with our session. Open. Hey, open. Good. So through open, I can look at her teeth. Say she decides not to eat one day, I can make sure there's nothing wrong with her teeth. Paw. Good girl. Through paw presentation, I can take a look at her pads to make sure they're in good shape. And we've also been able to voluntarily trim some of her claws. Good girl. Where are you going, Anala? Come on back. Station. Good girl. Sit. Good girl. It's kind of hot out today, so she's a little slower moving than normal. Open. Open again. Good. I don't know if she'll do this one, again, because she's kind of hot. Hey, can you go up? All the way. Good girl. So from an up, I can look at her belly, make sure everything's in good condition there. Again, good visual of her paws. In our building, where she sleeps every night, there is a small gap underneath the mesh where she can flick her tail out to us. So I'm one of 2 of her trainers, and with the tail presentation, we can voluntarily draw blood from her tail, which is great in checking her blood count levels. Big cats, just like house cats, run a risk of kidney failure, so it's very important that we're able to keep up with that training as she ages. Right now, Nala's in great shape. Good girl. So you'll notice each of the cues that I give her have a visual signal. She responds more to that sometimes than the verbal. I can train her completely without using any words. Cats, like other animals, respond more to body language. We give off a lot of information in our body language that we don't necessarily know we're giving off, so she responds to all of that. Open. Good girl. Good job.
We got a question from Rachel who
Yeah?
wants to know how often you train with Anala.
So there's 2 of us who train Anala, like I said, and we typically train her about 2 to 3 times a week. Each session is about anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes, depending on what we're doing and depending on how much she wants to participate. And most of our training we do in our building. There are less distractions. We also have corners where we can position her and another person can be on the side of her. And again, we're always protected contact with our big cats here, which means we're never in the same physical space. So the more we can do without being in the same space as them, the better. Keeps us healthy and safe, keeps them safe, and it eliminates the need to do a chemical immobilization to sedate them for procedures. The more we can do without sedation, the better. Good girl. Yeah. So Anala is 15 years old. She's been here since she was just under 1. She was actually being sold on the pet trade, and she was crossing over state lines to a state where it is illegal to have tigers as pets, confiscated by U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and we had the space to build an exhibit, so her and her companion came to live here, and she's been here ever since. Hi, good girl. Good girl. So Anala at 15 is getting close to the top of her lifespan. We're monitoring her for conditions that arise with age. She's a little slower than she used to be moving around, doesn't really play as much, but she really does love, she has this one giant boomer ball that she likes to hit around a lot, so that would be her favorite toy. In the wild, tigers typically live 8 to 10 years. In human care, they can live into their mid to late teens. Some have lived to be 20, but average lifespan's usually 16 to 18 in a zoo setting. Hi. Hi. Yeah.
A question from Leslie who wants to know, how do you know if a tiger is male or female?
So it's not always as obvious. Sometimes males will have more hair around their face, not quite like a lion mane, but a little bit more. But the key is to look at the male and female parts at the back. Oh.
Awesome. And Jeanette wants to know, how much does she eat every day?
Anala eats 7 pounds of meat a day, except for Wednesdays. So Wednesdays we fast our cats. It helps with clear their digestion. In the wild, they wouldn't eat every day. They'd only eat every few days and just gorge themselves. So on Wednesdays, they get these large bones to chew on. Gives them some marrow, something else to do. And we usually make ice treats for them as well to give them something else to play with. Usually frozen blood ice treats, and the blood we get from our meat. Who's a little girl? Huh? Yeah. Can you up? Good girl. Good job. Good girl.
We got another question from Martha who wants to know if she has had any cubs.
She has not had any cubs. As I mentioned before, she was being sold on the pet trade, so we're not sure what her genetic background is. She is likely a Bengal tiger mix, but we're not sure what she's mixed with, so to avoid inbreeding, she was spayed when she came here. And there are 8 subspecies of tigers, so we're not really sure what she could be mixed with. 3 of those are said to be extinct, so that's one of the things that International Tiger Day is trying to put out there. The threats to tigers, which include human encroachment, farming, mining, building of quarries. Tigers can live in a wide variety of habitats. They just need dense cover to hide, and they need a food supply. But in terms of temperature, they can be in really cold climates, they can be in really warm climates. They do really well. Speaking of hiding, Anala, like a tiger, is often hiding at the back of her exhibit. So if you come here and you can't see her, try to look for just a glimmer of orange, glimmer of white in the bamboo at the back of the exhibit, and she's usually back there. If she's not there, she's sometimes in her pool at the front. Tigers are one of the few cats who actually like to swim, so she especially likes that on warm days. Sometimes you just see her ears sticking up out of the pool.
We got another question asking if we have white tigers. Would you like to share a little bit about Luther's story?
Sure. So I mentioned Anala came in with another tiger. That was Luther. He was a few months younger than her. He passed away about a year ago now, and they were mainly just companions. They weren't related. We neutered him because we didn't want breeding again. But white tigers, which a lot of people don't realize, they are not their own subspecies of tiger. They're just a result of inbreeding. So white tigers shouldn't really exist. They're created by humans essentially, or perpetuated by humans. So that's why we didn't have them breeding. But yeah, Luther passed away about a year ago now, and he was out here with her every day.
We also got another question of, has Anala reacted
It's hard to tell how much emotion we're putting out there. The keepers have definitely reacted to not having Luther here. You work with an animal pretty much every day, and you see these animals more than you see your own families. So it's definitely a bit of a shock for animals and humans included. And Anala, she was a little quieter. She knew something was happening. She knew he wasn't feeling well, as far as we can tell, with her behavior around him. But she's been doing very well. Tigers are solitary animals anyway, so we're lucky we were able to keep them together as long as we were. And that's just because they grew up together and they were here from a young age. But in the wild, tigers will be alone. Cubs will stay with their mom for about 2 to 3 years, and then they go off on their own. And other than that, tigers only come together for mating. So it's not unusual for a tiger to be alone.
And does she have any favorite enrichment?
She really likes large things that she can swat around, and she has a pool in here in the exhibit, but she also has a pool in holding where she goes at night, and that's kind of her indoor habitat. And she loves to throw giant logs in the pool. A little hard for us to get out in the morning because we're not as strong as her, but balls and logs, just things that she can swat around, make a lot of noise with, those would be her favorites. She also likes ground cloves. It's a nice scent. Not as much as Luther did, but she still really likes ground cloves.
Awesome. We got some questions about the fence that's around here. Just wondering if it's electrified, how we make sure she's safe in here, and keepers are safe when working with her.
Sure, yep. So around the perimeter of the exhibit, we have what's called hot wire, which is electrified wire. It comes to about here around most of the perimeter, just not here because this is our training space. So that keeps her away from the lower level of the fence. And then if you see at the top, there is what's called a kickback. So it's an angled fence leading into her exhibit, and there's more hot wire up there. So she should not be able to physically climb over that with her weight based on the angle, even without the hot wire. And we have extra hot wire on there as a fail-safe. So some cat exhibits will have hot wire around them. Some will have moats, as our lion exhibit does. There are just different ways of, there are some yellow jackets. There are different ways of keeping a cat away from the fence line. So that keeps us safe. And we are never in the same space as Anala. So whether we're out here or in holding, we service the areas before she goes out there and put a lot of fun stuff out there. We scatter meat around in the morning, so she has to kind of hunt for it and look for it. So that keeps us safe, keeps the public safe, keeps everyone safe, her safe in the long run.
Awesome. So I have a question for you. What made you want to get into zookeeping, and especially working with tigers?
I knew I wanted to work with animals since I was a kid. I've always loved nature documentaries, loved going to the zoo. I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian though. So I was pre-vet at Boston University, and I just did an internship at this zoo to look good on a resume, and I loved it. And I've been here about 13 years now, so loved it and stayed. Big cats have always fascinated me, so I picked this area for the big cats, but hooves and horns also encompasses a lot of our large hoof stock, our giraffes and our zebras, wildebeest, camels. So I say I came for the cats, but the hoofstock is what has kept me here. Grevy zebras are my favorite, followed by tigers.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that these guys were endangered. So why are they endangered, and what are some conservation actions for them?
They're mainly endangered because of human encroachment, farming that needs to move further out into their space. And there are about 3,000 tigers left in the wild. It's an estimate because they are solitary and they're good at hiding. About 80% of the world's tigers are in India, but there's also tigers in China, South Korea, Himalayan regions, and their numbers have gone down significantly, and about 50% of cubs don't live past 2, don't make it past 2. So they say if you make it past that, then you're usually fine to live into adulthood. but it's just a hard life for them, and it's hard for farmers who have land abutting where tigers live, especially when farmers rely on their animals to make them money and support their families, and sometimes tigers will come by, and it's a lot easier to steal some chickens and steal a cow than it is to hunt a wild deer. So that human-animal conflict makes things a little complicated as well.
All right.
Yeah. Any other questions, or everybody good?
Do they have predators other than humans?
Just humans.
Just humans.
Yep, just humans. They are at the top of their chain there. Some people refer to them as a keystone species because they keep the deer population down in their regions. Lots of different types of deer and elk. So without tigers, those animal populations would get too high, overgraze, get rid of the vegetation. So it's very important for the biodiversity of the area that tigers stay out there. Like I mentioned, there are already 3 subspecies of tigers that are extinct, and the rest are either critically endangered or endangered.
Thank you for introducing us to Anala today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for coming to see us and spend time with us. And Anala's a great ambassador for her wild cousins.